Hello and welcome to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya, and in today's video I'm going to start a series that I call Theory and Methodology in Vedic Astrology. I think this is something that's needed in our field, in our community. It's just some things we need to think about before we start working with clients' charts, but also making grand theories about the future of Vedic astrology. So just for a minute, I'd like to talk about my background. I have my master's degree in ethnomusicology from Indiana University, and I got it at the mothership for folklore. It was the first folklore institute in academia. Started in the 50s, actually right after World War II, so it was technically the late 40s, I think. But it is the philosophy of folklore and ethnomusicology that we study there. It is not the applied ethnomusicology, which is more what they do at UCLA. So you don't have to be a musician to study this type of ethnomusicology. And what I have found in Vedic astrology is that people are basically using the hard sciences methodology, which is called the scientific method. Now, we're all pretty familiar with this. This is where you have an hypothesis and you work backwards to try and prove it. And the way that this pans out, for instance, in medicine, if you're trying to cure cancer, then you're working backwards. Well, I have this theory about cancer, I'm going to try it on my patients, and I'm going to see if I can reproduce the results. That is what the scientific method is about. It's about proving your results by reproducing them several times. Now, in the soft sciences such as anthropology, ethnomusicology, folklore, we use what is called participant observation. And this is because the bulk of what we do is called ethnography. And an ethnography is a book that is written as a kind of verbal photographs of a picture in time, studying a particular culture, any kind of culture. For us in ethnomusicology, we use music as a lens to view a particular culture. So the way this works is participant observation means that you're basically hanging out with the people and you're taking excellent notes, both written and multimedia in the form of pictures, videos, and you're letting the truth emerge. You're letting the facts emerge from the material. Rather than forcing your ideas onto these people about how I think they are, you're allowing them to tell you how they are. And I think the way that this works with astrology is, first of all, you have to listen to your client. You can't just look at their chart and say, oh, you have a debilitated Saturn, so, you must have had, just automatically putting all of those things onto that particular aspect. You had a hard time with, money, you had a hard time with your career, you're impatient, whatever. There are other things in the chart, for instance, Nichabanga Yoga, things that are going to help mitigate debilitations that you might not see because you're focusing so much on that one thing and you're working backwards, trying to prove something instead of allowing the truth to emerge from the chart. And what I see this is important with right now is particularly with this whole new tropical Vedic astrology movement that is trying to force the tropical zodiac onto the nakshatras. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. The heart of the lion, Regulus, the star Regulus, is not in Virgo. It's in Leo. And if you use the tropical zodiac, then it's in Virgo. And it just doesn't work. I'm sorry. You can't cherry pick your chart and decide, well, I like my tropical chart better, so I'm going to use that, but I also like the nakshatras, and so I'm going to superimpose them on top. Well, I'm sorry. Western works great on its own. Vedic works great on its own. But when you start mixing the two and cherry picking and doing what you want, it doesn't work anymore. It stops being accurate. And so it all goes back to epistemology. And what does that mean? Epistemology is one of the main branches of philosophy, one of the top 5 branches. It's at the root of philosophy. And what it means is, how do you know what you know? This is what epistemology asks. How do you know what you know? What lens are you looking through? And so we have to be very careful that we don't put our personal opinions onto a chart. For instance, 99.9% of the astrologers got the last U.S. presidential election wrong because they were so focused on hating Donald Trump they couldn't see the facts in the chart. And the facts clearly show that he was going to win. It's not my opinion, it is the facts. And so you have to take your personal opinion and set it aside. Take your ego, set it aside. Get out of your own way, and then the chart will be, the facts will emerge. It will be an emergent methodology that you're using. So really in astrology, we need to use both. We need to use scientific method, and we need to use participant observation. But it is a very delicate balance, and this is the art of interpretation. And so I think that this is something that we all need to think about right now as astrologers, because Vedic astrology is getting really popular. And we have to be very careful of cultural appropriation. And what does that mean? It means appropriating somebody else's culture. And as Westerners, I'm not Indian. It's not my culture. I have to be very sensitive to the fact that colonialism all but destroyed India. I have to be very sensitive to the fact that the British treated the Indians like children. And so of course they're sensitive about their culture. We have to be very careful that we don't appropriate their culture and manipulate it and use it the way we want. First of all, it's not accurate. Second of all, it's very rude. If it's not your culture, don't pretend to know more than the people that are from that culture. And number 3, it's not the future. The future isn't taking from the Indians and merging it with the Western and trying to decide, what parts we should get rid of. It's just not, it's not where the future lies. I think the future of astrology lies in a more sensitive, a more intuitive approach, much more feminine approach. And, look, in 5 years, April 8th, 2024, we have another great American solar eclipse. It's going right over Hindustan, Indiana, where I live. And it's going to be 5 planets in Pisces, one of them being Neptune. And I think Jupiter's going to be there too. So both planets that fall under, Jupiter's domain will be there. Because in Western astrology, Pisces is Neptune. But it's going to be a very spiritual time. There's going to be a spiritual revival. I know that the next 5 years are going to be about, excuse me, breaking down the old, and then we're going to be refilling with the new. And I feel like in order for us as astrologers to approach this time with honesty and with integrity, we need to get our egos out of the way and allow the chart to sing to us. So with that, I'd like to finish the video and just say, if you have any questions about this, about methodology and theory in anthropology, just let me know. And I'd love to have a talk with you. And I'm probably going to have some people on my channel to interview to talk about this as well, because epistemology is everything, especially because the zodiacs are the lenses that we're using to look at the night sky from our perspective on Earth. So that's all epistemology. So thank you very much, and namaste.